No, you are not imagining it. The world is spiraling. Things feel unstable. Familiar institutions are cracking. Trust is eroding. Chaos is accelerating. And while the media calls it unprecedented, history tells us a different story. This has all happened before, and it's happening again. Every 80 to 100 years, America enters a period of crisis so deep that it reshapes everything: our economy, our government, even our identity as a people. It's called the fourth turning. And if the theory is correct, we are living through one right now. The concept comes from historians William Strauss and Neil Howe, who published The Fourth Turning back in 1997. Their argument? That history doesn't move in a straight line, it moves in cycles. Predictable, generational cycles, just like the seasons. They identified 4 recurring turnings in Anglo-American history, each lasting about 20 to 25 years. First, the high, a post-crisis era of rebuilding and strong institutions. Think the 1950s. Second, the awakening, a spiritual upheaval where people challenge those institutions. Think the 1960s counterculture. And third, the unraveling. Institutions weaken, individualism rises, and trust collapses. Think the 1980s through the early 2000s. And 4, the crisis. The fourth turning. A complete breakdown and reset of systems. Think the Great Depression, the Civil War, the American Revolution. And here's the kicker. Every fourth turning, so far, has resulted in massive conflict or transformation, followed by rebirth. Let's break that down. The first fourth turning was 1775 to 1794, the American Revolution. A full-on rebellion against empire. New government, new order. The second, 1860 to 1865, the Civil War. Brother against brother, as they say. The soul of the nation torn in two. Slavery finally abolished. A new, constitutionally reshaped America. The third, 1929 to 1946, the Great Depression and World War II. Global economic collapse, authoritarianism rises, then a world war that rewrote the geopolitical map. And the fourth? Well, we are in it. According to Strauss and Howe, the current fourth turning began around 2008 with the global financial crisis. But it didn't start with a bang, it started with a crack. Since then, the cracks have only widened. Think about it. Economic inequality is the worst it's been since the 1920s. Trust in government, media, and education has collapsed. Mental health is in crisis. Birth rates are plummeting. Climate instability is rising. Authoritarian ideologies are gaining ground on both the far right and the far left. This isn't random. It's the convergence of generational tension, institutional failure, and global disorder. Just like every fourth turning before. But it gets more unsettling, because each of these fourth turnings has followed a suspiciously regular pattern. A crisis point arrives, usually around 80 years after the last one. That crisis shakes the system. The people either rise to rebuild or the system collapses completely. And guess what? We're due. The math lines up. The signs are flashing red. And if you think the timing is just a coincidence, look closer. The Declaration of Independence was signed in July 1776. The New York City draft riots, one of the worst civil disturbances in U.S. history, happened in July 1863 during the Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg, the Civil War's turning point, was fought in July. The Civil Rights Act was signed into law in July 1964. After one of the most turbulent springs in American history, and the summer of 2020, protests erupted in every major city across the US. Summer has a pattern of becoming a pressure cooker, when long simmering tensions finally explode. Why? Because people are out. The heat rises. Energy builds. And when systems are already fragile, heat accelerates their breakdown. So, what now? Well, if you believe the fourth turning theory, here's what likely happens next. We hit a major climax, a war, an economic collapse, or a constitutional crisis, a moment where the old system simply can't continue. In response, a new order is born. Sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it's worse. That depends on the decisions we make during the turning. Because here's the truth that haunts every fourth turning. The outcome is not guaranteed. Rebirth isn't automatic. Sometimes the system doesn't survive. Sometimes the republic doesn't come back. Sometimes history doesn't turn, but it ends. So what should you do? First, understand the cycle. That's why I created my series, This Week in the Fourth Turning, to break down these events as they happen, through the lens of historical pattern. We've covered, or will be covering, why birth rates matter more than you think, why weak leadership in fourth turnings makes crises worse, why fringe ideologies rise during institutional collapse, what worker uprisings, digital surveillance, and generational rage all have in common, and how the past echoes of every headline we see today. It is all in there. The echoes are in those headlines. Each week, I dig into the news, not as isolated chaos, but as part of a centuries-long rhythm of rise, unraveling, and rebirth. The goal is to give you the map they won't teach you in school. Because if we know where we're going in the cycle, or where we are in the cycle, we can better shape what comes next. But don't wait. History doesn't warn twice very often. The moment when crisis turns to collapse or transformation, it's coming fast. And the patterns are converging now. Remember, every system has a breaking point. Every nation has a moment of reckoning. and every generation has a role to play. This is ours. Whether we emerge stronger or fall apart depends on how well we understand the forces we're caught in. The fourth turning, in my opinion, is real. And it's happening now. And it's not over yet. You can watch the full breakdowns on This Week in the Fourth Turning on my YouTube channel. And you can find the playlist under that name. And I do it because history may not repeat exactly. But I'm sure as hell convinced that it rhymes. Thanks for watching. I look forward to your comments and to making more videos as we go through the remaining, 5 to 8 years before this crisis is finally climaxed and completed. And we can move on, hopefully, in a stage of rebirth and leave some of the retribution behind. I'll see you in the next one.